All right, round two of the Western Off-Road Championship here. It's a combined Alberta BC series, and I wanted to hit a few of the rounds in British Columbia. This is my first time at Chuwhels Challenge, so this is just outside of Kamloops. I rode the Inks area a couple years ago before Monkey Wrench just to kind of check it out. And I've been to Greenstone last fall. I rode with some of the guys from around Kamloops, but this is my first time here, and it's going to be a dusty one right off the start. Can't see anything. I tried to take a line to the left through where I knew there wouldn't be any dust, and ended up getting passed by a few people, so not putting myself in a great position for the race. But yeah, you'll see it for the first 5 minutes here. This is just super, super dusty. Yeah, one of my buddies in pro, David, he ended up breaking his rear brake tip right off the start in here somewhere. Just couldn't see anything, and hit a rock or a stump or something, and snapped the end of his tip for his rear brake off. So he got to run the race without that. And another buddy, Wayne, he had a crash right off the start. Somebody, I think, hit his back wheel right off the line, and he went down. So there was lots of room for drama here right off the get-go. But as you'll see, following somebody, and it's really hard to make passes here off the start because you're doing everything blind. So you kind of, I don't know, I was giving guys a bit of space so then I could see, but of course then somebody makes a pass on you, and you find yourself perpetually moving backwards as you go along here, just because it's just so risky to if you're not out front, then you are riding blind. So yeah, that was the scenario for the first part of this loop. It's a 53-kilometer loop for, I guess, in my class Expert, we did, this is part of the B loop, then we split off onto an A loop, and then we split off again onto the double A loop, but that the total distance was 53K. So the guy that put this on, Ryan Monk, and his crew had a kind of a neat concept. They were putting up basically mile markers every kilometer. There was a sign that showed you how far in you were, so you could kind of count the kilometers off, and then when you split off to the A, then it starts again from zero. The coloring was a little different, but you'd start at zero again and do the A loop. Then when we split off to the double A, again it started at zero, but you could kind of keep track of the clicks that way, and it's a smart thing to do, I guess, especially when you're dealing with people that might be broken down or injured on the trail. You have a really good idea of where the heck they are because all these places are marked out. So that was pretty neat for them to have that. They had a nice big map of the whole area too. The day before, we were out riding, and a guy ran out of gas, and we were trying to figure out how to get back to him, and they pulled out a big map and had everything, all the road crossings marked off and where the checkpoints were, and so it was pretty slick and a well-oiled machine here. This isn't the first time these guys have put something like this on, and they did a good job with the course markings and everything else. So kudos to them and to all the volunteers that showed up and helped out. Yeah, here's a hill climb where you just can't see anything. Oh, this one wasn't bad. The next one, totally blind, and there's rocks and stumps and everything else all over the place, so you don't really want to get off too far off the trail because you will be definitely eating shit. Yeah, right here, just can't see anything. So okay, let's guess and find a line, and then end up in somebody's roost. And yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. But that's Kamloops for you, I guess, and probably Kelowna too. They don't get a lot of moisture, so this is what you're faced with. It was plus 37 this day as well. Oh yeah, wash out the front. Plus 37 later in the afternoon. I'm not sure what the temperature was right now. It wasn't that hot, but it was still you just out there baking. So hydration was pretty important. They also had hydration stations set up at all the checkpoints, which, you know, for most people running the AAA aren't going to be stopping for a glass of water. But, you know, if you ran out of water and you're dying of thirst, that's a welcome sight. just a quick little road section, but just you can see how dusty it is and how easy it is to miss turns in a corner when you're going through this. They had ribboning up there, but you blow the corner so easy following somebody in the dust. So here, and this is all within the first 10 kilometers of the race, but I was riding so tentatively, not being able to really see, that I guess I was riding my rear brake quite a bit, and I ended up boiling it. And I didn't realize it, but I used that rear brake to steer my bike uh, a fair bit. 5 or 6 years ago, I probably never even touched the rear brake, and once I started racing and riding more single track, the rear brake just really helps you steer. But I fell off my bike twice in quick succession because my rear brake just was not working, and it took me a second to compute what the heck was going on. It's easy to figure that out when you're going on some long sustained downhills and you boil the brake, but this I had no idea, and then was trying to use the brake and it wasn't working. So I had to lollygag quite a bit around the course just to get the rear brake to come back, and so I got passed by a pile of guys, and I think at this point I'm back to riding again here. I just thought that was a really cool feature, so I wanted to include it in here. Where I normally ride, there aren't any rocks, so when I see rocks I get all excited. But anyhow, yeah, I had boiled the brake there, and yeah, now I'm riding again here. This is Mike. He was doing some of the sweeping, I guess, on the course, so I gave him a little wave, a little hang 10, I guess. He's racing in the, I'm not sure what the heck the class is in the States, but we'd call it 60 plus in Alberta, and he had won a race there the other day. Him and buddy Glenn were always battling, and the races are really close, and he won one, but it was at the expense of, I think, of his knee was giving him trouble, so he didn't actually race this race. So his son Mitch raced it, and yeah, Mike was just out there in support capacity this weekend, so it's good to see him and the rest of the guys from Kamloops. Met quite a few of them over the last couple years. You run into people at all these races, and it's a close-knit community, so it's pretty cool to start going to these races and recognize familiar faces and have a chance to chit chat with everybody. This is now again on the on the single A course, and I can hear a bike behind me, and it's my buddy Brandon Lowe who's behind me. I didn't realize my camera was actually on at this point, so he passes me, and I probably turn it off when what I meant to do was turn it on so that I could chase him around for a bit, but he actually checked out on me through here pretty quickly, and it took me a while to catch back up to him. So yeah, you'll see I kind of let him go by here. He's racing in, I don't know what it's called, we call it that master in Alberta, but whatever his class is, it was one of a handful of classes. Only pro expert in his class were going through the double A section. So yeah, I thought I was turning on the camera, but I turned it off. Now it's on again, and we are at the double A split. So if you are paying attention and you take a left, you are going to hit the hard stuff, and if you take a right, you're going to hit the not so hard stuff. And I think a lot of this was freshly cut in, and I've tried to include pretty much my entire run through the double A section, just because I know a lot of people wouldn't have seen any of this stuff. So I'm not doing this at any kind of breakneck speed, but I'm also not trying to stop. So just maintain, whatever pace you can through here. It's a really hot day and it's a long race, so for guys like me that are over 45, I'm not going for broke right through sections like this, but I think good technique and just cleaning the features and moving forward can pay dividends when others may struggle in places. So that's what I was trying to do. And yeah, the next, I don't know, 40 minutes is probably me just meandering my way through here. And so yeah, there's a few cool spots to check out, some new Lomi stuff, some harder features where guys are messing up and their sweepers and everything else. So there's a good mix of stuff through this section, and this is pretty much takes you to the top of Chuwhels Mountain. Yeah, fun times. As I rounded this corner, I can see sweepers helping guys and a bunch of people all kind of chilling out there. So there's something interesting around the corner, and there's a bit of a rock step up here. You got to get up first, and then it winds around, but there's a zigzag downhill that was just really steep and extreme angles, and if you messed up, you would be a hurting unit. So I was actually chatting with some of the guys. I think I don't know if it was before the race or after the race, but the guy that won the race a few weeks back, he had rode through here and ended up going over the edge, and I think he just popped his seat off somehow. That was the only, so that and his bride maybe a little bit were hurt, but some of these spots, if you mess up, you're going into the rocks, and it could be a hurting unit. So yeah, and even the guys that really good riders can make mistakes through here, so you just got to be careful and pay attention to what the heck you're doing if you don't want to find out what get some rock samples or soil samples with your face or your hands. But the zigzag was to the right, to the left, and then down, and this was a cool little line here to kind of cut out that zigzag and make some places. So you drop through these trees, and then you don't have to do this big pivot turn. So there's guys to my right and to my left, but the angle that I hit it at, you can just ride through it and totally forego that. So that was a sneaky little line for sure. Made a couple passes there, which is great. And then there's just a big side hill here for a while, followed by another kind of a tricky downhill, I think, after this. Not a sustained one, but some of these ones where you lock your bars and you're turning and going down the hill, if you mess up, you're tipping over and hurt yourself. This opens up to a little clearing, and then there's I can see a few guys off to the right. Somebody's kind of here pondering life and catching up with their breath, but you can see a whole pile of guys trying to get through this. So it follows this rock bluff or face, and you end up going around, but it's a short technical section, but it's still enough place to ride if you're not familiar with the rocks and how to get traction on this. Normally I would say in through here, if you're moving, you're okay, and if you stop, then you end up getting stuck on roots and rocks, and it can make for a long and tiring afternoon. So you just got to try to carry your momentum through this. You don't have to be going at a crazy speed, but if you're moving forward, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. And you'll hear these guys are, some of them are on 4 strokes too, which is kind of an odd thing for the hard enduro. But for a lot of the people that I see riding these trails out here, they're all on 4 strokes because there's a lot of good flow and fast stuff as well. So I guess no bike does everything perfectly, but the 4 strokes just definitely don't handle the heat when you're doing this low technical stuff, I would say, as well as the 2 strokes. Catching this guy, but I would catch up to him and then he'd kind of check out on me, and I just kept maintaining whatever pace I was doing. This is, yeah, one of those, like, take the hard left, don't tip over, looking like banging against this rock as I drop in. Yeah, some neat topography here. glimpse of somebody's dust, and that lets you know you're getting close to them. You can see this guy off to the right here. So this was another switchback. And obviously you see switchbacks, you know that it's must be pretty darn steep. Otherwise guys would just be riding right up it. So yeah, I end up catching up to a few people here, and then it's just sort of stop and wait for them to clear the obstacles. Around this left-hander was kind of a rooty step up, and I didn't hit it properly and ended up kind of in the same position as I guess a lot of people would have been in, where you end up if you don't get, I didn't even get either tire up it, which was probably a good thing, because then I could get a run at it and get up and over. But if you get your front tire up and your back tires up against the root, you haven't done yourself any favors, as you'll see a little bit later, another guy that I ran into here. But yeah, just checking to see, I normally have my camera on a 15-minute timer to turn off, but clearly I didn't have it on, so I was checking to see if it was still on, and it is. So capture all this footage. I ended up having to change a battery, but I was in another lineup and had time to do that, so that's kind of how I get all the footage. If there's no time to stop to change out a battery, then my footage is pretty short, and if there is, then I try to record more. So you'll see, yeah, this is where this guy's up against a root and just shooting stuff out, but I didn't even get that far, which was probably a good thing in this instance. That's the route I stopped on. There's a big rock under my bike here too, and I was like, oh, that's not gonna help me get up this, so I kind of tossed it out of the way. But of course there's people behind me, so I sort of tossed it at another guy, and it rolled, and I think it hit his front tire. Heads up. You wouldn't want that thing going much further though, otherwise you could actually hurt somebody, so it's probably not a good idea to be chucking rocks off the trail when you're racing. Of course, they come loose with back tires anyways, and you always got to be paying attention. Does this justice, but there's a drop off over here that ended up sort of hitting, front tire goes off, but it was pretty steep. You could endo in a few of these places if you weren't paying attention. another lineup. This was a good opportunity to change up my battery. I think my camera was at about 20% battery health, so I thought, or battery life rather. So I just took the opportunity to switch it out. But yeah, there's a lineup of guys. Brandon is somewhere up there, as are a few other riders, and there's really not a whole hell of a lot you can do when somebody's stuck on it's a one line up kind of a section, and there's somebody stuck there, and you just sort of have to wait your turn. So good chance to catch my breath anyways. I had brought some snacks, but I didn't get around to actually eating any of those, but did change out the battery here, and then resume with the new battery and wait for the other guys to clear the obstacle and then give it a go. I saw one of the guys that I used to race in 40A with was up at the top here. Eric Cardiff, he's usually posting videos of his races, but I don't know, I think either he damaged his bike or himself or just wasn't racing this weekend. I'm not really sure what the deal was. I thought I heard he had a mechanical issue with his bike, but regardless, he wasn't racing, so he's sweeping and he's hanging out in the AA section. His class wouldn't have had to do it, and in BC that class is I'm not super fond of the fact that they only get 2 hours. They ride the A loop, but they only get a 2-hour cutoff instead of a 2.5-hour cutoff. Whereas in Alberta, if you're on the A loop, you're getting 2.5 hours, and if you're on the B loop, you get 2. So it was kind of an annoyance for me coming to BC to race those rounds. But this year, being an expert, that's not the case. I'm gonna get my money's worth. So yeah, just wait my turn here. And I don't clean this, unfortunately, and the front end gets pretty light. There were some sweepers there, and if anybody doing this is like me, the last thing you want is somebody helping you with your bike. Even when you need it, you just don't want to admit that you need it, and you'll suffer through it, at least I will. So these guys didn't have to help me, but it's good to have them there. If your bike were to tumble down to the right, be a real workout trying to get it out by yourself, so it's nice to have these guys here. But yeah, the front end just gets super light because it's a pretty good angle trying to get up here. I'm guessing this guy here is probably just tired, like the rest of us. Some of these obstacles, to look at them, you think, oh, it's so easy, and to go ride it on a regular day, you can make short work of it. But when you're tired and pushing, little things can become fairly difficult. And this has all been tracked out quite a bit too. So, yeah. Anyways, it's steep. I didn't clean it, but didn't have to take another run at it, thankfully. There's a steep right-hander here, and I didn't catch this until I was already kind of in the line, but there's, if you went around that rock to the left, you could have went wide on it and made it easier. This way you risk going over your bars, because trying to make that turn is pretty tight and rather steep. after I take a hard right and it's full lock, so you can't really do anything to correct the one way once your bars are fully locked, but I got away with it. Felt pretty hairy though.
Whoa, that was a close one.
Heading in through here, you'll see a lot of this is just freshly cut in, so the trail's not super established, and yeah, lots of little roots and stuff, but it's fine. It was fun. It was fun going through here. But there was a fair bit of this heading back down the mountain, I guess. This was tricky. I guess if you had all day, you could probably perfect it. But stepping up to it and hitting it, it was really slippery actually. And yeah, my first attempt was a fail. Just didn't commit hard enough, or bad line, or bad technique. I don't know. Take your pick. But yeah, didn't get up it. And I've got a couple guys behind me. The one guy's, hey, yeah, just stay right there and I'll get by you. Okay, here you go. Yeah, no, you won't. It is super slippery.
Fuck that up. Almost missed that turn.
Although there's lots of arrows, you still sort of get tunnel vision at times and think, oh no, the trail should go this way. So you got to be paying attention, otherwise you can get off course. And there's been times, you get off course, then you start picking up, some different color flagging, and next thing you know, you're on a whole new adventure. Here's a bit of a climb, but this guy's in my way, so we'll wait for him to get out of the way.
Pull your back end over. Pull your back end over and then go. Then you're not on that route. Or you can get a run at it, one of the two.
Just sort of got tired of waiting for that guy, so I got around him. But there's another big route here that I get lucky on and just clean.
Oh, I got lucky on that big route.
On this double A stuff, there's just so many little things that can catch you out, and they just chip away at your energy. If you mess something up, it's just can be death by 1,000 little rocks or roots or whatever. If you're not flowing it and you're not maintaining your momentum, it's a real hard time to get going through this stuff, and so it'll beat you down. This big rock, they had all this orange paint and markers here because if you went to the left, you were going to be a hurting unit just straight down. So you got to stay to the right. I didn't go actually right enough, and I ended up having to kind of cut over. But this is a great little vista view of the whole area that you're going to come back through. So I would say this is the beginning of getting back into some normalcy as far as the A loop is concerned. You're the merge from the double A to the A's up ahead, and you can start flowing things and riding faster. At least I could after this section, so that was good. A welcome sight.
I'm used to Alberta mud, which is bottomless. This stuff isn't bad.
Last of it, you'll see there's a merge sign up ahead, and it ties into the A loop. Funny, I'm used to Alberta mud, and it's deep, and you just avoid it at all costs. But this stuff wasn't too bad. I was still avoiding it. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to go through the mud if I don't have to, but just a little more easier to go through than the mud that you'd have in Alberta that's bottomless. So yeah, now is the time to kind of put on the charge through the hard stuff, back into the flowy stuff, and see if I can make up some positions. This was the rider that was just ahead of me at that last check that I went through. So caught back up to him. And there's another rider at the top here that's also stopped. So 2-for-1 pass, that was nice. Honestly, if you're tired or you're not feeling it, it's a hell of a lot easier to just get out of somebody's way, let them do their thing, and if you got your second wind, you can catch up to them, and if you don't, then you go on doing your thing and they go on doing theirs. The one thing in BC that I'm not particularly fond of is you have no idea what class anybody else is in, because the numbers are, there's this number on my handlebars that they give me, but number plates and whatnot, there's 10 guys that have the same, whatever number on their bike. So yeah, and it's all different colors and whatever else. So it just makes it really difficult. Whereas in Alberta, the pros are red, the experts are orange, and every class has its own color. So it just makes it a lot easier to know, am I battling with this person or not? Because if they're in your class, maybe you don't want to let them by so easy, or you're going to push extra hard. And if they're in another class, it's just like, why slow them up, or why slow myself up, or I can get out of the way because I know this person doesn't affect my race. So that I find is a better system in Alberta for that sort of thing. Getting excited again. I saw dust, so it's somebody, and because I'm still on the A loop, it's potentially another person in my class. But regardless, it's fun catching people and passing people. It sucks getting passed, but it's fun when you're the one doing the passing. So yeah, I had saved quite a bit of energy through that double A section and just trying to push so I could make a second lap. And yeah, just catching up to people and trying to make some passes because they'll let you by.
Thank you.
There isn't a ton of moisture out here, but there were a few muck holes. This guy here's stuck on the left-hand side, so went around on the right. These mud holes are, I guess, relatively short-lived, but you still can get stuck, and it's frustrating when you do. Now here, I think this is now on the B loop, and catching somebody getting their dust. I believe it's actually a woman's pro.
Thank you.
that deep rut. This is a little bit past that. I got past her and then I tucked the front going around this corner. It's like, ah, shit. I had already checked out, so I wasn't really worried about her getting back around me. But I'm just like, you make the pass and then you end up sliding out. So that was an unforced error. This was one of a few hard, easy splits on the B loop, and yeah, I didn't exactly clean it. There's a photographer at the top and a couple sweepers, but yeah, it's a little janky. I mean, if you go into it with some speed and know what you're getting into, you could probably clean it fairly easily, but yeah, it wasn't pretty. This is probably 2.5 hours into my race though, so I wasn't going to beat myself up about it. Yeah, this is more B course fun here. Rooty, rocky, kind of mucky section. So they don't take it easy on their B riders, at least not at Chuwhels. It's just pound you into submission, I guess. Up ahead here, there was a couple people that I went past that were just pulled off the trail, and then up ahead there's a whole bunch of guys that are in here, just kind of hanging out. I'm not sure if they're catching their breath or whatever, but I think momentum just helps you get through all this stuff, and if you slow down, yeah, there's a guy pulled over, or a gal, one of the two. Yeah, if you're moving, this stuff's pretty easy, but if you slow down and you're hitting every single route and getting stuck, your back wheel, little sections like that can actually be pretty tough. So this is the hard easy split again. I went right, which was hard. There's a few big muck holes, but if you can get through them, it really wasn't that bad. Just duck to the right hand side here, and then the two merge right here. Now I'm coming into another remote check. There was a few people stationed here. Little road gap. If you actually hit it fast enough, you could probably clear it, but then you'd be going into a tree. And yeah, gonna mark me off, and away we go. Somehow I ended up losing my back brake yet again through this section. I don't know. I blow my back brake. I can count on one hand the number of times I've done it, and in this race I did it twice. But it makes these corners, taking these corners, just extremely difficult if all you got is a front brake. Alright, this is the tail end of the race. I've caught somebody else's dust, but it's taking longer than normal to actually see who's kicking this up. So I turned the camera back on. This is, the last 1 or 2 kilometers of the race. You'll see a mile marker coming up here shortly, but yeah, I thought, okay, I gotta push. I know that I'm not going to make cutoff. This is just past the 2.5 hour mark now, so don't leave anything in the tank for when I cross the finish line. So I'm just doing my darndest to catch up to this rider. I noticed that he has orange plates, which in Alberta is expert, and it turns out he was formerly from Alberta, so he had those markings on his bike, so I could tell, okay, this is somebody that I definitely need to get past before the end of the race. He went left there, I went right, and kind of got slowed down through those trees, so he's pulling a bit of a gap on me now, but the trail does open up ahead, and it was sort of my last opportunity to make a pass. Yeah, it opens up here. There's a fiber optic line that runs along here. So I just smashed it and got past him, but it's a hard right. Trying to slow down, both wheels drifting, and his front tire hits me, almost sends me into that tree, but I was able to keep it together. Now I'm ahead of him, and this is what I assumed was the tail end of the race. Obviously, you can see trailers up back there, so with him behind me, it's like eating my dust. There's no way he's gonna get past me unless I screw up. So just gotta keep it on 2 wheels here. And there's another racer just ahead of me as well, just to add to the mix. So we come into the start finish here, and the other racer obviously would have been a B rider of some kind, but he checks up before he even crosses the finish line. So I just get around him to get under that scanner, and yeah, that's the end of the race.
You got me, buddy. Sorry, guys.
Oh no, it's all good.
What class are you guys?
Expert.
I had you watch your back. I couldn't let it go down.
No, it's all good.
So at the end of the day, ended up 7th place, 3 seconds ahead of Kyle there, and had a chat with him afterwards. It was good. We had fun that last little bit. Yeah, can't wait to do it all over again.
Yeah,
Thanks for watching.
I'm like, oh, it's orange. I better.
I know, man. When I heard you coming, I don't have anything left.
Yeah, I know, and I was looking at my watch. I'm like, I missed cutoff, so I started kind of lollygagging. I'm like, catching bees, right? I'm like, you never know. There's an off chance.
I know. When I heard a motor, I was like, damn it, he's in my class. I got nothing.